The TVS Jupiter 110 has now been out for 11 years, and in that time it has grown to become India's second largest scooter brand, only after the Honda Activa, and it is the biggest selling product lineup in TVS's entire portfolio. Now, this is a big moment because TVS has not just updated the Jupiter 110 with a safe set of updates, they have gone all out. This is a completely new product. It has a new look, new chassis, new engine. There's a lot going on here and a lot of positive stuff to talk about. Essentially, the new Jupiter 110 is based on the 125cc Jupiter platform that came out about a year or two ago, and that was a very different concept for a petrol-powered scooter. But before we get to the fundamentals of what's going on underneath, let's actually talk about the style, because I think things are really interesting out here. Big departure from what the Jupiter was, but not something dramatic, not something too polarizing. For example, the headlamp is still pretty conventional, but TVS has really gone to town with the front apron. If you go for the top models, you get this big DRL element that goes right across the face, and you also have the indicators incorporated in there. I think it looks really good, and more than looking good, it has a very identifiable look. So people are definitely going to know that they're looking at a Jupiter. Earlier, the Jupiter looked like pretty much every family scooter, which was a design philosophy created by the Activa. Now, the Jupiter is going down its own path, and I like that. When you move further towards the side, you will see that the bodywork is still identifiable as a family scooter, nothing wild or crazy, but you have these lines in here to give it a more youthful, sporty look, and I really like what TVS is doing over at the rear. Now, this is inspired by the iQube, but it takes it to another level. You've got the single element light that goes all the way around. It fills up in red, and like the front, you have the indicators that light up on the sides. Now, if you go for the lower versions of this, you get a different look at the front. You don't get the full LED DRL. At the rear, the base variant looks exactly the same, but the brake lamp only fills up the center and the indicators are on the side. Now, the big talking point here is that this scooter now has a huge boot. It's 33 liters of space, and TVS says that you can put 2 helmets in there, although they probably will need to be smallish helmets to both fit in there and have the boot close. But this is the biggest boot in the petrol scooter business, up there with the EV boots. Really impressive, and the reason TVS has been able to execute this is because it's on the Jupiter 125cc platform. So you have the same chassis as the Jupiter 125, which places the fuel tank down here under the floorboard. Scooters generally have their fuel tanks at the back. That's gone underneath, which is why you get all the space. There are other advantages of having a fuel tank in the floorboard as well. TVS says it lowers the center of gravity, it moves the weight further forward. Scooter engines are towards the rear, so inherently they're not really that well balanced, and this sort of improves that. Now, we have ridden it today only on TVS's test track. It's a pretty high-speed test track, not something to see what a scooter is like to ride. But you can tell that this is a very light and agile handling scooter. It's not really fun and sporty like an N-Torque, a little soft, a little comfort-oriented, but very agile yet stable. But it's a nice compromise, and it's what you would expect from a family scooter. Now, because this is based on the Jupiter 125 platform, you also get the same telescopic front fork, single shock rear setup when it comes to suspension. Slightly tweaked for the scooter, but almost the same as the 125. Similar in terms of brakes as well. It's nice that TVS is also offering you the option of a disc brake on a 110cc scooter. Many of them out there don't really have that. This is a really nice brake. We haven't tried what the drum brake is like, but the top versions get the disc brake. And I would recommend that you go for it because it's strong but also very confident sort of performance. You can stop the scooter really well. And when you stop the scooter really well, the top model has an interesting safety feature. It's what we see in much bigger bikes, that if it detects that you're in a braking situation, an emergency braking situation, with speeds above 50 kilometers now, you slam on the brakes, it'll flash the indicators, you'll give an audible alert, so people around you know that you are braking in an emergency. The good thing about the system is that it's not very easy to trigger. I had to brake really hard to the point that the rear wheel came off the ground, which again shows you how nice the brakes on the scooter are. And it's only then that it flashed, and not for a very long time. It's a nice feature to have, and it's not something that will come in the way very often. The rest of it is really very comfort oriented. It's a big seat. It's longer than the old Jupiter's seat, more spacious. It feels more comfortable to me as well. Very nicely padded, spacious at the rear as well. These are the pillion foot pegs out here. Lots of room, rider and pillion. That is quite nice. TVS is also getting their ergonomics very well. I am quite tall, as you can see, and I fit on this scooter well. Most scooters I need to get my knee out of the way, but this is quite good, and it is a really comfortable neutral riding position. The other big deal on the new Jupiter is the new engine. Now, this is a completely new engine compared to the old Jupiter, but it is based on the Jupiter 125cc engine. So you have the same stroke as the Jupiter 125, but it's sleeved down. It's now a 113cc engine, which is slightly bigger than the old Jupiter. It's a longer stroke engine than the old Jupiter. Power figures have gone up very marginally. Torque has gone up by almost 1 Newton meter, and TVS is employing a clever trick to make that happen. The way they've done that is to create a sort of micro hybrid system. It has an integrated starter generator, which is something we've seen on many scooters that basically enables the silent start. But TVS has taken it a step further now. Under certain requirements, for example, if you very quickly whack the throttle open, or if you go all the way to the throttle stop, the system will recognize that you want a bit more shove, and it'll add about 0.6 Nm of torque, and you'll get a little symbol up there that says assist on. Now, to make the whole system work, TVS had to use a specialized battery. It's a slightly higher rating, and you can get the assist function about 2 times every 2 minutes, because if you keep using it, the battery gets depleted. It takes about 2 minutes to recharge the battery as the vehicle runs. So if you keep doing this, you'll get the assist about 2 times every 2 minutes. How long that assist lasts depends on how long you keep the throttle open. To be honest, I couldn't tell how it was working over here, because it's only 0.6 Nm on a scooter that makes 8 horsepower and about 9 Newton meters of torque. So it's not something you're going to feel pull you along, especially in an open environment like this. I would like to see what it's like in traffic, because you may actually notice that when you want to shove, the scooter moves forward a little quicker, but it does work very smoothly, and we'll see how much of a difference you will feel. TVS also says that the system helps in overall fuel efficiency in general, and they haven't really shared a figure with us, but they say that this engine is 10% more efficient than the old Jupiter 110. What I can tell you about today though is that this motor is superbly refined. There is a very mild buzz in the floorboard that tells you you've got an engine underneath, but whether it's low speeds or full speed, top speed of about 85 kilometers an hour when you're sitting up, 90 when you're down, you'll feel nothing in the handlebar, nothing in the seat. Superbly smooth motor. That is going to be a really nice thing out on the streets. It's also a very nice throttle calibration, very smooth, no jerkiness, a good clean response. That aspect of the bike has been really engineered very well. I have really enjoyed riding the scooter today. It seems to offer exactly what you'd want from a family scooter in terms of lots of space, lots of practicality, the promise of very good comfort. The suspension does feel like a nice soft pliant setup. The seat feels comfortable as well. But TVS has also gone out of the way to make sure that it's not just a nice ride scooter. There's also quite a lot of desirability and features that they have built in as well. There are 4 variants in total. The base variant has steel wheels and a drum brake. Then you get a drum brake with alloys, and then you get the top version with the disc brake and a bunch of connectivity features. However, we have the top version here, and there's some interesting things going on. For example, you have hazard lights. You have to long press the indicator button to make them come on, 3-4 seconds, press them off. You've got a stop-start system, which we've seen in other TVS scooters as well. Then, because the floorboard has the fuel tank underneath, what you do is you can open the fuel cap from there, and you can open the boot. So it's a multi-function key slot out there. You also have a large cubby in the front. It's an open cubby, but it's 2 liters of space. It can hold quite a lot of stuff. You've got a USB charging port above it. And then you have TVS's Bluetooth connectivity, which gives you navigation prompts. It'll tell you who's calling you. It can tell you where you parked your scooter last. Typical features, we have seen them in TVS products before, but it's really nice to have that in a scooter like this. The display itself, you get the color LCD display on the top 2 variants, I think. Looks very nice, neatly executed, easy to read, and a good amount of information. While you're riding, it'll tell you what your real-time fuel efficiency is. You can also check what your average fuel efficiency is. It's very nicely executed. In fact, in general, I think the quality levels are quite nice for what the expected price should be. That's what we've learned about the new TVS Jupiter today, and I have to say I really like what the company has done here, not just because it's a very nice scooter to ride. I also like the fact that the design is bold and different. TVS is trying to break the mold. They're also trying to break the mold with what's happening underneath. 11 years ago, the Jupiter was basically a benchmarked version of the Activa with a few improvements. It had the telescopic fork, it had the 12-inch wheels, and those were the factors that made you want to consider a Jupiter over an Activa. Also, the fact that the Jupiter was a little more affordable. Today, there's a lot more. It's a more youthful design, it's more feature-packed, much more practicality with that boot. That is a really important thing in the scooter market. And it happens to do all that at what should be a fairly reasonable price. Yes, we definitely want to ride it out in traffic, see what it's like in the real world, but the scooters made a really good impression today. Now, the Activa is on another level in terms of sales. Honda has massive scale when it comes to that product. The Jupiter is not immediately going to catch up and beat the Activa, but with this update, I think TVS can claw away at some more of Honda's market share.